Hello, friends. It's good to be with you for a brand new week. Man, I've really been looking forward to this. I've got something today that's just really an interesting story, one that I know is going to impact you. If you can learn the principle of this, I'm telling you right now, it's life changing. Sometimes you get a little bit of information that is makes a difference in your life, and then there's some that totally changes the way you look at everything, and that's kind of what I feel like I've got for you today. And so I want you to take just a couple of moments, just pull up a chair, pull up a cup of coffee, just relax for a couple of moments, and I want to tell you a story from the book of Genesis. This is such an incredible story. I think it's one. It's one that is so bizarre that you don't find anything else like it in the entire Bible. I mean, literally, I don't know that, well, I guess I can find some that kind of relate to it, but none exactly like this. It's the story of Jacob. Jacob was in kind of a tiff with his uncle Laban. His uncle Laban had taken advantage of him, changed his wages, lied to him. You know, the guy was a deceiver. His uncle was a deceiver, as a jerk. And as a matter of fact, that whole family really had a little bit of problem with that, because obviously, you know that it was Rebekah that, which was Jacob's mother, that talked Jacob into deceiving Isaac over the birthright and over the blessing. That's why he ended up at Laban's in the first place. Is because of deception and deceit, and he was running for his life. So he went to his uncle's ranch, and there fell in love with one of the girls. Fell in love with Rachel, and you know the story. He had to work for 7 years. He was deceived by Laban, and then worked another 7 years. You know all of that. Matter of fact, I think that's probably the greatest love story in the Bible, the fact that a guy would work that many years. But now it's time for him to leave. He's wanting to get out of there, and he's not wanting to lose his shirt. Laban's going to take advantage of him. He's lied to him about his wages. He's trying to take his money. And this is a story about what he did with all of the sheep and the goats, all of the livestock, how he was going to get his share of the livestock. So, I mean, this is a lot of information to take. So what I'm asking you to do is take just a moment with me here. What I want to try to do, I want to read you the scripture here, and I want you to listen very closely, because I'm telling you, I promise you, this particular story, it literally is one of those things that can change your life in how you look at things, how you see things. So I want to read this to you. This is from Genesis chapter 30. I would encourage you to get your Bible and read this, and because you're going to see this, don't just read it in the King James. Actually, look at a couple of different versions. This one here is not the King James, but I'm doing this because I want you to kind of get a broader view of it, okay? Now, here's what it says. After Joseph was born. Now, Joseph, he's already married now to Rachel, the love of his life. He's worked 14 years for this woman. It's incredible. Now, his firstborn with her was Joseph. And it said, after Joseph was born, Jacob said to Laban, I want you to release me from our agreement and let me return to my own country. He said, man, I'm ready to get out of here. I've been here for 14 years. I'm ready to leave. He said, you know how hard I've worked for you. So let me take my wives, let me take my children, and I want to leave. But Laban told him, he said, look, if you're really my friend, stay on, and I'll pay you whatever you ask. Now, of course, he lied to him like 5 different times about this very thing. And so Laban said, I'll pay you whatever you ask, because I know that the Lord has blessed me for your sake, which is a powerful statement. Can I just tell you this? Your boss, the one you work for, they're blessed because you're there. The fact that you work for that company, God will bless that company because you're there. And that's what Laban said to Joseph. He said, I know that the Lord's blessed me because of you. And so Jacob answered him, and here was his strategy. This was going to be a knockout punch that said that he was going to basically walk out with what he was owed. Jacob answered and said, "You've seen how hard I worked for you, and you know how your flocks and your herds have grown under my care. You didn't have much before I came, but the Lord blessed everything that I have ever done for you, and now it's time for me to go start looking out for my own family." And so Laban asked, "How much do you want me to pay you?" And Jacob said, "I don't want you to pay me anything. Just do this one thing, and I'll take care of your sheep, and I'll take care of your goats. Let me go through the flocks and the herds, and take the sheep and the goats that are either spotted or speckled." Now, let me say this. Spotted or speckled. In ancient times, sheep were usually white, and goats were usually black or dark brown. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And only a few sheep actually would have spots on them. Only a few goats would have white spots. And so it was very rare. And so that's what he said. He said, "Let me go through the flocks and the herds, and let me take the sheep and the goats that are either spotted or speckled, and the black lambs. That's all you need to give me." And so then he said, "In the future, you can easily find out whether I've been honest. Just look and see whether the animals are spotted and speckled. And if the lambs are black, if they aren't, then they're stolen from you." Well, okay, that was going to be very easy. And so Laban, obviously being the hustler that he was, he said, "I'll agree to that." And before the day's end, here's what Laban did immediately. He separated his spotted and speckled animals from the black animals from all of the others, and then he put his sons in charge of them, and Laban made Jacob keep the rest of the goats, and he took all of those 3 days' journey. He wanted to make sure that there was no way possible that they were going to be mixed together. So he had them 3 days' journey away. And let me see here. Let me go ahead and finish reading this. Then Jacob cut branches from poplar trees and from some of the almond and evergreen trees. He peeled off part of the bark, and he made the branches look spotted and speckled. And then when he put the branches where the sheep and the goats would see them, in other words, they would see them, and many believe that that's what the sheep and the goats saw during the times of breeding, that would determine the color of the young, okay? But he said, while they were drinking from the water trough, the goats mated there. And it said, in front of the branches, they're spotted and were, let me go back, I'm sorry, I misread that. It said, in front of the branches, and their young were spotted and speckled. Okay? Some of the sheep that Jacob was keeping for Laban were already spotted, and there were others that were ready to mate. He made sure that they faced in the direction of the spotted and black ones. In this way, Jacob built up a flock of sheep for himself and did not put them with the other sheep. And when the stronger sheep were mating near the drinking place, Jacob made sure that the spotted branches were there. But he would not put the branches when the weaker animals were mating. So Jacob got all of the healthy animals, and Laban got the ones that were left. And Jacob soon became very rich and successful, and he owned many sheep and goats, camels and donkeys, as well as a lot of slaves. Okay, there's a lot of reading for you, but basically you can kind of get the idea that what he did was took these branches and literally cut stripes in them. He cut circles in them. You know how it is whenever you cut the bark off of it and it's white underneath? That way you can see. And he said whenever they were drinking or whenever they were mating, that's what they were looking at. And what they were looking at during that time of production, that's what they produced. That's an incredible story. Now, you don't find anything else like that in the Bible. I'm not trying to build a doctrine out of this. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I do want to say that this is very unique. Now, I can find other places where God took, like Abraham, took him out and said, lift up your eyes. Do you see the stars of heaven? That's what your seed's going to be. He took him out, the sands of the sea. That's what your seed is going to be like. In other words, without count, without number. So I found that the principle is right for your life. What you look at is what you tend to produce in your life. Now, I believe this to be a spiritual law. I don't think this is just by accident. I think what people look at, that's what they produce. Some people are so negative, they surround themselves by negative things, and it literally produces a lifestyle in them or a mindset in them that when they do produce in their life, they're producing what they've been looking at. That's why it's important that you not hang out with negative people, with people that are always down, people that don't see a way, people that are always mad about this and they're mad about that. You need to watch out what you're looking at. You need to watch out what you're seeing, especially when it's time for you to be productive in your life, when it's time for you to reproduce in your life. Now, of course, we were using the examples of the animals when they were mating, but the fact is that was a time that they were being productive. They were reproducing in their life. And I just want to say that there's times when you're needing to produce something in your life. There's seasons in your life of production. Not every season is a season of production. I think we can surely see the pattern of that just by looking at our year. We've got seasons. We've got the summer. Dear God, we've been going through this summer, and I'm just thinking, Lord, are we ever going to get out of here? Get me out of this 100-degree temperature. I'm looking forward to the fall. Well, the fall is the next season. I love the fall. The fall is so wonderful. It's beautiful. The temperature change has come. It's so good to be out of the summer, but then after that, we're going to have the winter and then the spring. And everything produces in its season. Now, there's seasons of your life that you're going to be productive and produce. I really believe that. I think there's some seasons in your life when you're basically going to be idle. There's going to be some seasons in your life when you rest. There are some seasons in your life when you just need to be still. But then there's other seasons when it's time for you to be productive and for you to begin to produce in your life to where you become like Jacob. Jacob, it said, as a result of him doing this, he owned many cattle and many cattle. He owned many sheep and goats and camel and donkeys, and it says as well as a lot of servants that were working for him. Now, what that says to me is that he walked out with great wealth. See, he understood the season of production, and he utilized that season, and the result of that productivity was great wealth. Now, see, a lot of people, they don't understand the seasons of their life. I'm thinking about the sons of Issachar. The Bible said that God gave them wisdom that they might know the seasons, that they might know what Israel ought to do during those seasons. So in your life, there's times of being productive. There's times whenever you're supposed to produce. Now, a lot of people, they don't understand that. They can't discern the seasons. They can't discern the times. During those times, specifically, it's very important what you look at. During the times of productivity, because the productivity in your life, the producing in your life, is not just a physical producing. In other words, it's not just, I went out and made $1. It is spiritual. You are spirit. You have a soul consisting of mind, will, and emotions, and you live in a body. You become prosperous on the inside before you become prosperous on the outside. I believe that it is as important for you to look at things from a spiritual standpoint as you do a physical standpoint. See, and what you look at is what you produce, what you see. Mark chapter 4, one of my very favorite chapters, it said the way you measure it, that's the way it's measured back to you. Some measured 30, and that's what they got. And it was the same good ground. Do you know that it was the same good ground that produced 30-fold, is the same good ground that produced 60-fold, is the exact same good ground that produced 100-fold? What made the difference? The way they saw it and the way they measured it. Some people saw 30, that's what they got. Some people saw 60, that's what they got. But some saw 100, and that's what produced. So everything in your life is measured by what you see. And during these times of being productive, it's very important that you surround yourself with faith, with optimism. I think there's a time in your life that you even need to separate yourself from certain people. I think that there's times in your life whenever you were supposed to be productive that season was stolen from you by other people that stole something that could not be replaced, and that is your time. They stole your time, but they stole your optimism. They distracted you to the point that you weren't looking at where you were going anymore. All you could see was how bad things were. See, what you see is what you produce. And so what he did is he cut out he took these branches when it was time for these animals to produce. And they didn't produce at all seasons. There were seasons when it was time for them to produce, when the animals went into heat, and it was the season for them. That's when he cut out the limbs. That's when he cut out the tree branches so they could see during that time of producing. You understand? So what I want to do is, when it comes to that season that I'm supposed to be producing, what I want to see is I want to see prosperity. I want to see healing. I want to see blessing. I don't want anything that will take my eye off of the fact of me prospering in my spirit, in my soul, and in my body. That's very, very important. And so this is, like I said, this is a very unusual story. I think you should spend some time. I would look at it, if I were you, from different translations, just so you can grasp it. And again, there's some people say, that doesn't mean anything. Well, I don't know. It's in the Bible, and it's a principle that caused movement in someone's life. I need that. I need to know that when it's time for me to be productive in my life, what do I need to do? I mean, and every one of you know exactly what it's like whenever you should be producing in your life. You should be walking in blessings. And you see people and you think, well, what's the matter? How come they didn't do it? Well, I will just dare say that many times when it was the season for them to give birth, they were looking at the wrong things. When it was the season for them to produce in their life, what they were looking at was completely opposite of what they wanted to produce. You need to look at what you want to produce. What do you want to produce in your life? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about, I need to produce this? This is a time that I really need to be effective in this area. Well, that's when you need to, I don't care if it, now you might say, well, this is getting weird. Well, I don't know. I would even consider going and getting a picture of what I wanted to produce, of what I wanted to be, of how I wanted to be, of what I wanted to achieve. I mean, you just fill in the blank, and I would put it up on my refrigerator where I could look at it, or I'd put it up in my house in my bathroom on the mirror when I got up in the morning, that I saw that image. You see, I want that image not just to be on the outside there. I want it to be on the inside, because when it comes time for me to produce, I need to produce that. And I'm just telling you, it does work. What you see in life, that's what you get. Now, I know there might be some exceptions where somebody that was negative got some watershed of something other, inheritance or whatever. And I'm not talking about the exceptions, because there's sometimes when things happen that you're thinking, Lord, that ain't fair. But I'm talking about the general rule of life. There are people that are negative. There are people that are optimistic. There are people that believe in something more, and there are those that believe in something less. And what you believe is usually the product of what's in your heart. Now, I've talked to you about this before. The heart is the generator. The heart is the power plant that produces. Matter of fact, that's where your faith comes from. Faith is a product of the seed when it gets put into the heart, the recreated human spirit. So what you look at, what you perpetually look at, what you continue to meditate on, that's what becomes real in your heart. And whenever it's time for you to be productive in your life, when it is time for you to bear children as such, and I won't say bear children, but it could actually be, you could bear finances, or it could be health, or it could be new opportunity. Whatever it is that you're supposed to produce or bear during that season, it's going to happen because of what you're looking at. And I would just strongly suggest that. I think that you should get a picture of what you want. Learn how this works. There's nothing wrong with practicing. I'm practicing. I'm trying to learn how my life works, how my recreated human spirit actually works. And begin to put something in there that you're looking at, that you're wanting to produce. I want to see that. This is the tree that I've carved out this picture of me being this, or me getting that. Because whatever you're looking at in these seasons of productivity is what you're going to produce. Now, you need to understand what those seasons are. I believe that you have a spiritual enemy that knows what those seasons are. And I think that during those times, that's when he becomes most active. He's trying to draw you away from, get you angry, get you offended, get you whatever the case is, so that you don't pay any attention to that, get you discouraged. If he can get you looking at the negative rather than looking at where you're going, see, you understand that's what will begin to happen, because that's what you will produce. You are, we could sum you up by saying you are what you see. I can ask what you see and listen to you talk for 5 minutes, and I can pretty much tell where your life is, because that becomes the watermark for everything that you see, for everything that you're becoming, is what you see. What you see, that's what you get. What you see, according to Mark chapter 4, is a measure. See, I see that. Well, you know what? I don't have an education. That's a measure. Well, everybody hates me. That's a measure. You know what? It seems like I can't make ends meet. That's a measure. Every time I try to start out, everything falls. That's a measure. I don't have enough money. That's a measure. You know what? It looks like it's going to be a great day. That's a measure. I mean, everything you say, literally everything you say, is measuring what your life is becoming. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but the fact is that's just the truth. What you say, your words are creative. Your words aren't just syllables. Your words are pictures. When you say something, that's the creative aspect of your life. I'm saying this, and it's creating this beautiful picture. Have you ever listened to a good storyteller? Man, you're not paying attention to necessarily the sun rested here. You're not listening to the words like that, but you're listening to them paint this beautiful picture. They're creating something that doesn't even exist. but they're creating that image, and you're sitting back and you're enjoying it. Those of you that read good books, you read these stories, and what it's doing is each page is creating this beautiful image, this beautiful picture that sometimes can leave you in tears. It can leave you angry. It can draw your emotions into that story. That's how powerful that your words are. Because it's not just words. Your words literally are pictures of something that you look at. Your words are the branches that you've cut out what you're looking at during the mating season of your life. So what do you want to be? Well, you need to determine, what is the productive season of my life? What is the time? What is the season that my life is going to be most productive, that produces? Okay? We want to find that out. And then what we want to try to find out is, what do I want to produce? What do I want to be? How do I want to live? What do I want my life to look like? If you live a life of poverty, there is an image that goes along with that. It really is. If you want to live a life of financial prosperity, there is an image that goes along with that. You could say somebody that made $40,000, $50,000 a year, and that's how they're living. That's literally the limit. That's what they see. And if I told them, I say, you're going to make $200,000 next year, there would be something. First of all, they would measure what I just now said, and they'd go, yeah, right. You know what? That was a measure. What I just said, yeah, right. That is a measure. You just measured something. So your life, everything about it is a measuring what you see. So you need to change what you're looking at. I refuse. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to drag out there and just see how bad things are. Some people call me an eternal optimist. I am convinced that what I put my hands to is going to prosper. Now, I believe that. I believe that whatever I touch is going to multiply. And whatever I touch with that sense of expectation. Every time I'm going to do something, I carve out an image as to what I'm looking at, because that's what and actually, I think that's where we could get into, and I don't have time to do it today, but that's where you get into what is called hope. Faith is the power, but hope is the blueprint, and love is the motivation. Remember when he said that? Now about these three, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love? Well, certainly. But hope is the blueprint. Hope is the mold for your faith. Can I put it this way? Those of you that are hunters, you know what it is to have to put your bullet together. You've got the shell casing, you've got the gunpowder, you've got the lead. Can you see somebody trying to make a bullet? And they've got this huge bucket of lead, this liquid lead, and they're pouring it out on the ground. And you're saying, what are you doing? They say, well, I'm trying to make a bullet. And you can see they've got a big pile over here and a big pile over there, and you can see them. They're taking the bucket of lead and they're just pouring it out. And you'd say to them, you need a mold. You pour the lead into the mold, it sets up, you break the mold away, and you have a bullet. Now, that's kind of a crude way to put it, but that's the way it goes. The mold is your hope. Your hope is what you see. That's the image that you're looking at. You pour your faith into the image of a healed man, into the mold of a healed man, and when you break it away, you have a healed man. See, your faith is only going to produce what the mold has shaped it to produce. I feel like I'm I didn't intend to go this direction, so I feel like I don't want to just sound like I'm getting off into left field. I just want you to know that what you look at produces the mold for your life, that whenever what's your faith going to produce? Well, I'm just believing God. Well, what do you believe in God for? Well, I don't know. I'm just believing God. Well, no, you're not. You're not going, when you say I'm believing God and I have faith for something, that is directly related to say what? What are you believing God for? Well, I don't know. I'm just believing God. Well, that's not how it works. And as a result, that's probably why at the end of the day, what do they say? If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. If you're wanting to produce something specific in your life, you're going to have the mold that you pour your faith into. You're going to have to, so your mold is your hope. This is your blueprint. This is this is the tree limbs that he carved the streaks and the stripes out of, the circles out of. That's what you look at. My hope is what I'm looking at. See, so for your life, it's important that you know specifically what you're looking at. He was believing for this herd to produce spotted and speckled. That's what he was believing for. So that's what he put in front of them whenever they were mating during the productive time of their life, and that's what they produced. And as a result, I'm going to just tell you something. He walked out with a whole bucket load of money, and that is the truth. I'm telling you something, everything that they produced, and even the weak ones, it was so funny. He took the strong ones and he put the spotted and speckled in front of them. The weak ones he set aside. Isn't that incredible? So I want you to know that you need to change what you're looking at. Change what you're seeing. I think it was an old story that I heard of Zig Ziglar one time. He was he's trying to lose some weight in a certain amount of time, and he was working out. And he said he got one of those pictures of one of those men that were, he had a six-pack, muscled up and certain waist size without a shirt. I think it was one of those underwear ads, and he said he cut that thing out and he put it up on his mirror to where every day he saw that guy that was the shape he wanted to be. Every day, that's what he looked at. That's my goal. That's my mold. That's the spotted and speckled for me. You might say, well, that's bizarre. I know, but it works. It does work. God has to change sometimes what we look at. When God changed Abram's name to Abraham, he wanted him to where everybody that called him said, Abraham means father of a multitude, father of many nations. He wanted them to call him that. You know what? You need to change your name to healed. You need to change your name to prosperous. You need to change your name to wealthy. You need to change your name to, you hear the principle of it? It's a principle that produces in your life. So what you look at, baby, that's what you're going to see. And what you see, that's what you're going to produce. That's the way it works. That's the spotted and speckled. Again, I don't have time to spend any more in this, but please look at this chapter. Read this in a few different translations because it's very important, and it's the principle that can make the difference in where you are in life. All right. Love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking a few minutes just to let me share this incredible principle with you. I'd love to hear what you think about it. You can do that and leaving a comment. And those of you that are watching, I will respond to those comments. I may not do it immediately right now, but I'll respond to those comments because I'd like to hear what you think about it. Please push like, push share. And those of you that are going to go to my YouTube page, you can please push subscribe. And I would certainly appreciate that too. But I'm out of time. Thank you for joining me. I love you guys. And I want to just say thank you. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being my friend. It's a treasure that I value and I hold close to my heart. I'm looking forward to talking to you tomorrow. So until then, hey, leave a note like I said, and I'll respond. All right. Love you guys. Bye.